Hello, everyone, and today I would like to talk to you about solar return charts. Now, solar return charts are a little bit of a different chart that we can have done at around the time of our birthday. Now, when I say around the time, you can actually have these charts done a good month or so before, because depending on where you're at with your awareness and the road of becoming conscious, these solar return charts can actually activate and come in sometimes even up to 8 weeks before that. You'll feel the energetic force of one year releasing as the other year starts to make its mark. So I thought it would be nice to do this introduction. It is just an introduction into how to work with solar returns and some of what these charts actually offer us. So here goes. When working with solar return charts, there are, I guess the first thing is let's understand exactly what they are. Now, I love to think about solar returns as what stage will your life be played out on over the coming 12 months? Certainly, we definitely experience different years and bridges joining, the cycles of our life. That, this year, for example, my solar return year has a stage that is very much about networking, about my creativity, around my self-expression, and that theme is really powering along. Now, what might the spotlight be on? Like I just said, what am I experiencing in my solar return? That the spotlight is very much on authenticity and even working with the development of my personality and my confidence. Interesting that I start a YouTube channel that the year I have this very focused development of my of being able to express myself in the world in a way that really does tap in, hopefully, to my creativity. So what may the spotlight be on over the coming 12 months? What themes may be presented to you over the coming year? I'm sure we can all identify that we have themes each year. This year theme is this year's theme, we can look back or reflect over the years of our life and probably pull out certain years that had themes. And I'm sure if we were to then have the opportunity to look at our solar return charts, we would see those patterns and what they were offering us. What are the repeated patterns that you are being given an opportunity to address? Because solar returns are very cyclical and there's a lot of beautiful patterns and interwoven energies that are offered to us over that 12 months. And most importantly, what is the internal growth that you may be, that is on offer, that you have the opportunity to grow, from the experiences of the year ahead. Now, of course, I'm making this sound like it's all, roses. And of course, some years are definitely not sweet smelling, but they're still part of our growth and our process. So this topic that I'm now going to talk about with solar returns is about location. Now, for those of you that are not astrologers, and I'm sure there's going to be plenty of people watching this that maybe have heard about solar returns and want to know a little bit about what they are, something I did want to say is solar return charts are a little bit like a natal chart with a use-by date. That use-by date, of course, the resetting at our birthday for the next 12 months. But we don't all live where we were born. And there is definitely themes around, do we use the natal chart for the solar return, where the person was actually birthed? Do we use the relocated chart? So, if you're born in London and you live in Australia, let's relocate the solar return to where you live. Or do we do something else? Do we use the solar return chart of where we may be on our birthday? So 3 options. 1, the natal chart. I was born in Sydney. My solar return charts will always come back to being replicated from the geocentric position of Sydney. Or do we do, I've moved to London, so all my solar return charts are going to be based as relocated in London, or I go to holiday in Bali for my birthday, and so my solar return chart is set for Bali. This is all interesting, and you'll hear a lot of different things. So whether you are someone that's looking to have a solar return chart done, or whether you're an astrologer that uses these different methods, it's always good food for thought. If you're looking to have a solar return chart done, ask the astrologer that you seek out what method they use. It definitely does make a difference to the chart. And for what it's worth, me personally, I always relocate back to the natal chart. So if you're wherever you are in the world, if you're born in Sydney, that's where I will create your solar return chart for the coming year. So thinking about approach. Now, the nature of a solar return is about, considering the conditions of the upcoming year. So we want to understand what goals, what challenges, what interests, what successes, what failures may be being presented to us that ultimately we'll grow from. And how can we approach this unfolding year like the crossing over of a bridge, taking us to new territory, taking us to new chapters of our life, like an exciting book. A chart with a use by date, as I said, suggests atmospheres, themes, and areas of importance. Now, we can look at the solar return chart as a standalone chart, just in its own right. Create the chart, and here it is. Or we can look at the natal chart in comparison to the solar return chart. Again, different astrologers, we're all human, we all have our own approach, we'll do different things. Me personally, I was taught to work with a solar return by comparing it to the natal chart and seeing what's on offer. If this solar return year, someone that has 5 planets in fire has no planets in fire, that is telling us something, and it will speak volumes. If this person is a new moon person in their natal chart, and this year they are a balsamic moon person, that will also speak volumes. Should the person have a lot of things above the horizon opposed to below the horizon, and so on and so on. And these puzzle pieces tell us a lot before we even dive into the chart. Now, I talked earlier about patterns and cycles, and I'm not going to spend too much time here, but certainly the patterns and cycles of the planets. For example, here I've talked about the fact that Mercury is never more than 28 degrees away from the sun, and Venus is never more than 48 degrees away. And so we're not going to have Mercury suddenly opposite our sun, and that these patterns and cycles definitely have a repetition through the elements and through the houses. I'll leave you to have a look through these next 2 slides. It's just really got some information about how these cycles and patterns play out. So, for example, Jupiter is going to move approximately a sign per solar return year. Now, aspects and orbs. This may not be something you're interested in if you're not an astrologer, but I'm just going to share it very briefly. These are the aspects and orbs that I use. And just in case you're wondering, well, what's an aspect and what's an orb? The aspects are the relationship between the 2 planets. So if my sun is 90 degrees away from my moon, that tells me that my sun squares my moon. What is a square? A square may be something I'm feeling at odds with, and that's going to tell me something about the nature of the sun, my ability to shine, and the nature of the moon, my need to feel safe and secure. Now, orbs are the allowance that we give it, but I am also going to add here, if we bring another layer to what I just said, the sun is in Aries, the moon is in Cancer. Those 2 signs create a square. They create an angular interaction. And regardless of the orb, even though I have them up here, the allowance that as astrologers we give when we're looking to connect into the chart or to analyze it, Even take those away, Aries squares Cancer, and that's the energetic fact of the matter. So Aries, the warrior, Cancer, the great mother. How does the warrior feel about the vulnerability and tenderness of the mother's emotion? And how does the mother's emotion feel about the tenderness? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sure there are tender warriors out there, but how does the mother feel about the courage and the beating heart and the blood, sweat, and tears and the need to really fight to survive? These two energies are going to pose questions to each other. Now, that's just a little thing I've thrown in, but I have popped this up for those of you that may be learning about solar returns. It's a guide. So I hope it's helpful. Now, building blocks of solar returns. Of course, as I said, this is an introduction, and solar returns offer a wealth of insight, knowledge, wisdom into the cycles and patterns of our ever evolving years. But these are some of the fundamentals of astrology that often get overlooked. And when we're comparing solar return charts to natal charts, they're very, very important to consider. So you can obviously read these, but I'm just going to run through them briefly. Comparing the elements: fire, earth, air, and water, the operating system, the personality function, they operate on a subconscious level. Fire being the intuitive function, earth being the sensate function, air being the thinking function, and water being the feeling function. Explore these operating systems because they really do set us up to open some doors as we dive into more of the nuts and bolts of these charts. Consider the modalities: cardinal, fixed, and mutable. Look at the hemispheres. What's above the horizon? What's below the horizon? What's to the east of the chart? What's to the west of the chart? And compare. You might see a solar return chart where somebody has pretty well the same hemisphere breakdown, in which case you're probably not going to spend too much time talking about it for this solar return session. Look at the quadrants, explore the chart shapes, consider the moon phase, and look as to whether there are retrograde planets. Is there a big difference between retrograde planets in these charts? Maybe, maybe not. That's an important piece, actually. It can give you some really great clues as to where this soul may be at. As we're looking at interceptions. Now, interceptions, everyone does not work with. They are when we may look at a chart and we see a particular polarity stuck between two houses. So, they're not ruling their own cusp. Solar return years that have interceptions often offer some great opportunities to work with energies that we need to get some more experience and skills up in. Of course, looking at aspect patterns. Is there a T-square to the sun? I want to talk about it. Is there a T-square to the moon, or is there a grand trine in water? All of these things are going to be flowing into the chart. Are there planets on the angles? Also always important to consider. What are the ascendant and midheaven rulers? Super important to compare them. This year, maybe you have Cancer rising in your solar return, but you have Aquarius rising by nature. So your primary motivation is to march to the beat of your own drum. But this solar return year, it's different. It's not Aquarius, it's water. It's not air, it's water. So the primary motivation may be to really do some reflecting, to confront your own emotional self and to be vulnerable and gentle and sensitive and trust your intuition. Of course, I'm just sharing some, we're not got a chart in front of us right now, but these are all important considerations. What are the goalposts for the next 12 months? Look at the midheaven. Where are the rulers? How have they shifted? What are they like in comparison to your natal chart? Of course, the nodes as an evolutionary astrologer, number one, bang on the money, very important to understand the ancient contracts that we are working through. And of course, considering Chiron, because I believe he is also an incredibly gifted part of understanding our vulnerabilities and how we can heal them. Now, of course, there's a load of other things. Where is the sun in the chart? Where is the moon in the chart? Are there stelliums in relation to aspect patterns? All of these questions can be researched and explored through the solar return sessions. Now, what I'm going to ask you to do is to reflect a little bit on an important year that has occurred in your life. Perhaps it's the birth of one of your children, or the loss of someone close to you, or when you got that new job position that you'd been working so hard towards. And if you get the opportunity to create the solar return chart for that year, it can give you some wonderful insight into the strengths and the patterns and the gifts that solar return charts can offer you. So, I know that was a lot of information, and I hope that it was interesting. It was an introduction, and if you've got any questions, please feel free to message me. If you enjoyed this presentation, please subscribe to my channel. It's new, it's just a baby, it's looking for all the nurturing and support it can get. And until soon, I wish you, if it's your birthday, many happy returns, or just simply take care, be well, and have a good day. Bye for now.